Marcus Webb pushed his cleaning cart down the gleaming corridor of the Celestial Archives, humming quietly to himself. The mop clinked against the metal frame as the wheels squeaked on the polished floor. Above him, massive crystalline displays showed star maps and genetic data from hundreds of worlds. He'd been working here for 2 years now, and the view still amazed him every single day. "Hey, human," a voice called out from one of the side labs. Marcus stopped and poked his head through the doorway. 5 junior archivists sat around a circular table, their various alien forms hunched over a small device that glowed with soft blue light. There was Crix, the insectoid Vrel with his clicking mandibles. Beside him sat Tala, a Keshri with 4 arms currently holding data pads. The others he recognized but didn't know well. "Yeah?" Marcus asked, leaning on his mop. "We're testing everyone's DNA," Crix said, his translator rendering his clicks into standard galactic common. "Finding connections to historical figures. It's quite fun actually." "Tala here is apparently descended from a war hero," another archivist added, laughing. 16 generations back." Marcus shrugged. "That's cool, I guess. Want to try?" Tala waved a small swab stick at him. "Come on, it'll be entertaining. Humans have only been spacefaring for what, 80 years? Let's see what your primitive little genetic database shows." There was no malice in her voice, just casual amusement. Marcus had gotten used to being the least impressive species in most rooms. Humans were the new kids in the galaxy after all. Earth had only made contact with the wider universe in 2147, and it was now 2229. Babies compared to civilizations that had been traveling the stars for millennia. Sure, why not? Marcus walked over and let Tala swab the inside of his cheek. "Fair warning though, I'm pretty boring. My family's from Cleveland. My parents were accountants." The archivist chuckled as Tala inserted the swab into the testing device. It was connected to the Galactic Genealogical Matrix, a massive database that held genetic records from nearly 1,000 species across explored space. The device hummed softly as it analyzed Marcus's DNA. "This should only take a minute," Crix said. "Then we can all laugh about how your great-great-grandfather was probably a plumber or something equally mundane." Marcus grinned. "He actually was a plumber." "Good guess." The room filled with comfortable chatter as they waited. Marcus leaned against the wall, still holding his mop. He didn't mind the teasing. These junior archivists were the only ones who really talked to him anyway. Most of the senior staff barely acknowledged his existence. Then the device made a sound it hadn't made before. A sharp, discordant beep. The lights flickered. "What was that?" Tala asked, frowning at the device. Every screen in the lab went black. Then every screen in the corridor outside. Through the doorway, Marcus could hear surprised shouts echoing from other sections of the archives. The emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in dim red. "Oh no," Crix whispered. "Oh no no no." Heavy footsteps thundered down the corridor. Senior Archivist Velshera burst through the door, all 6 of her arms gesturing wildly. Her scaled face was twisted in fury. "What did you do?" she roared at the junior archivists. "The entire matrix just crashed. The entire system. 4,000 years without a malfunction and you idiots." The lights flickered back on. Every screen in the lab blazed to life simultaneously. But instead of returning to their normal displays, they all showed the same thing. Marcus's test results. Velshera's voice died in her throat. Her eyes widened as she read the display. The text was simple, written in standard galactic common so everyone could understand it. "Match confirmed, progenitor-level genetic marker detected." Below that, another line appeared. "Royal founder status recognized. 847 out of 847 known civilizations." Marcus stared at the screen. Then at his mop. Then back at the screen. "Ah," he said quietly. "Is that bad?" The testing lab looked like a war zone. 40 senior scholars from a dozen different species crowded around the device, arguing in at least 6 languages. Marcus sat in the corner on an overturned crate, still holding his mop like it might protect him from whatever was happening. "Run it again," Velshera commanded for the 5th time. Tala's hands shook as she inserted a fresh swab into Marcus's mouth. The device hummed. The same results appeared on every screen. Progenitor-level match. Founder status confirmed for all known civilizations. "This is impossible," a tall Trell scholar muttered, his gray skin turning pale. "Humans are barely out of their own solar system. They couldn't have founded anything." "The Matrix doesn't make mistakes," Velshera said, but her voice wavered. "It cross-references with every royal archive in the galaxy. If it says match confirmed, Then somewhere in this human's DNA is genetic material that predates all of us. Marcus raised his hand like a student in class. Excuse me? Can someone explain what's happening? Because I'm pretty sure my family tree is just a bunch of accountants and plumbers from Ohio. Nobody answered him. A communication officer rushed into the room, breathless. Ambassadors are arriving, she gasped. Dozens of them. The Keshri Empire just sent an emergency shuttle. The Trell sovereignty is demanding access to the human. 3 more governments are threatening to send warships if we don't share the data. Velshera closed her eyes. Share the results with all official requests. We can't hide this. Within 2 hours, the situation spiraled completely out of control. Marcus was moved to a secure conference room while outside, hundreds of diplomats and scientists gathered. Through the transparent walls, he could see them shouting, pointing at displays, making frantic calls to their homeworlds. A Keshri diplomat burst into the room, followed by Velshera trying to maintain order. Our royal archives confirmed it, the diplomat said, staring at Marcus like he was a ghost. The genetic markers match our founder. The one who taught our ancestors how to forge metal and build cities 50,000 years ago. According to our most sacred texts, the founder had scales like ours, but... She hesitated. Our geneticists just informed me that the descriptions could fit a human in environmental armor. A Vrel representative pushed forward. The same with our species. Our first teacher arrived 90,000 years ago. We always assumed they were Vrel because the ancient carvings show someone with multiple limbs. But those could have been mechanical arms. Tools. The genetic signature is identical to this human. Marcus felt dizzy. That's crazy. Humans didn't even exist 90,000 years ago. We were still basically apes. Were you? An old Trell historian asked quietly. He shuffled forward, carrying a data pad with trembling hands. I've spent my life studying forbidden texts. Documents the royal families tried to suppress. There's a pattern across multiple species. The founders always came during crisis moments. They taught, they helped, and then they vanished. Every single time. He pulled up an image on the pad. Ancient text in a language Marcus couldn't read. This document is called the Scattering. It was written by a Trell prophet 3,000 years ago. It says the first teachers were not spreading forward through time, but backward. It says they were running from something terrible. Something that was chasing them through the centuries. The room went silent. Velshera studied Marcus with new eyes. If this is true, if humans somehow develop time travel in the future and send people back to help other species develop, why? What were they running from? Marcus's head spun. His hands gripped the edge of the table. I don't know. I'm just a janitor. I clean floors. I don't know anything about time travel or founding civilizations. A medical scanner beeped nearby. The doctor monitoring Marcus's vital signs looked at her screen and gasped. His DNA, she whispered. There are sequences in his genetic code that aren't active. They're locked somehow. Engineered locks, like someone deliberately turned off parts of his genes. Can you unlock them? Someone asked. I don't know. Maybe. But we'd need to know what triggers them. Marcus looked down at his hands. Normal human hands. Ordinary. Nothing special. Except apparently, somewhere in his blood was the genetic blueprint of every civilization's ancient teachers. His own descendants traveling backward through time. And if they were running from something, that something might still be coming. 3 days passed in a blur of tests and questions. Marcus barely slept. Teams of scientists studied his DNA around the clock while philosophers and historians argued about what it all meant. The galaxy's greatest minds assembled in the archives, trying to piece together an impossible puzzle. Dr. Yenna, a Keshri geneticist, finally presented her findings to the packed conference hall. Marcus sat in the front row, exhausted and confused. We've mapped the timeline, Dr. Yenna said, displaying a massive chart that spiraled backward through time. Every species has legends of first teachers. They appeared at different times, but the pattern is clear. Humanity, somehow, will become the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Far in the future, they will develop time manipulation technology. Then they will travel backward, uplifting other species one by one. But why? Someone shouted from the audience. We don't know yet, Dr. Yenna admitted. But Mr. Webb's genetic code holds more secrets. We found artificial switches built into his DNA. Someone engineered him specifically. His bloodline was preserved across generations to maintain something. A loop, perhaps. Marcus rubbed his tired eyes. So my whole family, my whole life, was just part of some weird time travel plan? It appears so, yes. Outside the conference hall, protests erupted. Marcus could hear the chanting even through the thick walls. Some groups declared him their rightful king. Others screamed that he was proof of human manipulation and demanded his execution. Earth itself was now under protection by 3 different alien fleets, each claiming they were defending the sacred homeworld of the Founders. The Galactic Council was in chaos. Species that had been allies for centuries now argued bitterly about what Marcus's existence meant. Then came the assassination attempt. Marcus was walking back to his temporary quarters when 3 figures in black armor appeared from a side corridor. They moved fast, weapons raised. He barely had time to register what was happening before the first blast hit him square in the chest. Pain exploded through his body. He fell backward, smashing his head against the wall. Blood spread across his uniform. His vision blurred. But then something strange happened. His chest burned, but not from the wound. It burned from the inside, like his bones were on fire. The pain shifted, changed, became something else entirely. His skin tingled. The blood flow reversed, pulling back into the wound. Tissue knitted itself together at impossible speed. The attackers stared in horror as Marcus stood up, completely healed. "What are you?" one of them whispered. Marcus didn't know. His head felt like it was splitting open, but not from the injury. Memories flooded in. Except they weren't his memories. They were memories of things that hadn't happened yet. He remembered training. Combat training. Scientific training. He remembered volunteering for a mission. He remembered saying goodbye to people he'd never met. He remembered walking into a temporal gate, knowing he would be scattered across time, his memories locked away until they were needed. He remembered Earth burning. Security forces arrived and dragged the attackers away. Medical teams swarmed Marcus, scanning him frantically. Dr. Yenna pushed through the crowd. "The genetic locks," she said, reading the scans. "They're opening." The assassination attempt triggered some kind of defense protocol. Marcus grabbed her arm, his eyes wild. "I remember something. Not everything, but pieces. There's something called the Silence. It destroys everything. Future humanity tried to fight it and lost. So they went back. They uplifted other species, gave them knowledge, prepared them. It wasn't about control. It was about survival. The Silence." Velshera stepped forward. "What is it?" "I don't know exactly. The memories are fragmented. But it's coming. It ends civilizations. It..." Marcus paused, his blood running cold. "Oh no." "What?" Dr. Yenna asked. "The genetic activation. When my DNA unlocked just now, it sent out some kind of signal. I can feel it. Like a pulse that went through space-time." His hands trembled. "The Silence uses those signals to find timelines. To find when and where to attack." Velshera's face went pale. "You mean?" "I just told it exactly where we are. And when. It's coming early. Centuries before we're ready." Alarms began blaring throughout the station. A technician's voice echoed over the intercom, panicked and disbelieving. "Emergency alert. We're detecting spatial anomalies at the edge of the outer rim. Sector 7 has gone completely dark. 30 billion life signs just vanished. They're just gone." The Silence had arrived. The galaxy descended into panic. Every news channel showed the same horrifying images. Entire star systems simply disappeared from sensors. Not destroyed. Not conquered. Just erased as if they had never existed at all. Marcus stood in the archive's observation deck, watching the tactical displays with growing dread. More memories unlocked each hour, flooding his mind with knowledge he shouldn't have. He remembered being trained for this. He remembered failing before. "How many iterations?" Velshera asked quietly beside him. She'd barely left his side since the attack. "I don't know. 6. Maybe 7. Marcus pressed his palm against the cold glass. Each time, future humanity tried something different. Uplifted species in different orders. Gave them different technologies. But the Silence always won. Then why keep trying? Because giving up means everyone dies in the original timeline. At least this way, some versions of the galaxy get to exist for a while longer. Behind them, the conference room erupted in another shouting match. The galaxy had fractured into 3 groups. The Unity Coalition wanted to follow Marcus's guidance and prepare for the Silence together. The Sovereignty Movement rejected the entire timeline as manipulation and wanted to face their fate without human interference. And the Revisionists believed killing Marcus would erase the timeline completely and set them free. "Another sector gone," a technician reported, her voice hollow. 40 billion people. Just nothing. Dr. Yenna rushed onto the observation deck, data pad in hand. "We've analyzed the Silence's pattern. It's not random. It's following the genetic signal your activation sent out. It's moving toward us. Toward Earth. How long? Marcus asked. 3 weeks. Maybe less. 3 weeks to save a galaxy that couldn't agree on whether it wanted to be saved. A Trell commander from the Unity Coalition approached. Mr. Webb, we need to know. Your memories. Do they show us how to fight this thing? Marcus closed his eyes, searching through the fragmented images in his mind. He saw weapons that didn't work. Shields that failed. Fleets that vanished without firing a shot. The silence isn't alive, he said slowly. It's not evil. It's more like an immune system. Reality itself trying to fix something that's broken. What's broken? Velshera asked. This whole timeline. Every time loop, every genetic manipulation, every act of time travel creates paradoxes. Contradictions in causality. The silence is reality's way of resolving those contradictions by erasing them. The Trell commander's face darkened. Then we're already doomed. We can't uncreate the past. Maybe we can. Marcus turned to face them, a desperate idea forming. The paradoxes exist because we were forced into this timeline without choice. But what if we chose it? What if every species voluntarily accepted their genetic heritage? Made it real through conscious decision instead of manipulation? Dr. Yena's eyes widened. You're talking about deliberate genetic rewriting. Every species would have to use their own technology to match the founder-gifted sequences. Not because they were tricked but by choice. Would that even work? The Trell commander demanded. I don't know, Marcus admitted. But it's the only thing we haven't tried. The debate that followed lasted 2 days. 847 species argued about the fate of existence itself. Some called it surrender. Others called it evolution. Violence broke out on dozens of worlds as factions fought over the decision. Marcus watched it all from the archives, more memories surfacing. He remembered making this argument before in previous iterations. He remembered it failing. Species too proud to accept their origins. Too afraid of losing their identity. But he also remembered something else. Something important that his future self had hidden in the deepest part of his genetic code. His hands started shaking. What is it? Velshera noticed immediately. There's one more memory lock, Marcus whispered. The final one. It won't open until the crisis reaches its peak. What does it contain? Marcus met her eyes and she saw fear there. Real, genuine terror. The truth about how this ends. And I think past me locked it away because future me knew I wouldn't go through with the plan if I knew too early. Another sector vanished from the displays. The silence was getting closer. The votes came in one by one, broadcast across the galaxy. Marcus watched from the archives as 847 species decided whether to accept their genetically manipulated origins or face extinction. The Keshri Empire voted yes by a margin of 62%. The Vrel clusters agreed unanimously. The Trell sovereignty passed it by just 3 votes. Some species celebrated. Others mourned what they saw as the death of their independence. But slowly, impossibly, every single species agreed. They're ready, Dr. Yena said, her voice shaking. All civilizations are prepared to begin the genetic acceptance ritual simultaneously. When you give the word. Marcus stood at the center of the observation deck, surrounded by representatives from across the galaxy. The silence had consumed half of known space. They had hours left, maybe less. And then the final memory lock broke open. The pain dropped Marcus to his knees. Images flooded his mind so fast he couldn't breathe. He saw the complete truth, the thing his future self had hidden until this exact moment. The ritual would work. The paradoxes would resolve. The silence would stop. But Marcus himself was the biggest paradox of all. His genetic code was the anchor point for the entire timeline. Once the loop stabilized, causality wouldn't need the anchor anymore. The engineered sequences that kept him alive would fail. He would die within hours of the ritual's completion. His future self had volunteered knowing this. Had walked into the temporal gate understanding he was choosing death to save trillions. Marcus. Velshera knelt beside him. What did you see? He looked up at her, at all of them. Species that his descendants would travel back to help. Species that became friends, allies, family across thousands of years. I saw that it works, he said quietly. Give the order. Dr. Yena hesitated, studying his face. You're not telling us something. Please. Just give the order. Across the galaxy the ritual began. Trillions of beings entered genetic modification chambers. Using their own advanced technology, each species deliberately rewrote portions of their DNA to match the sequences their founders had given them. Not because they were forced, Not because they were tricked, but because they chose to make their past real. Marcus felt it happening. Felt the timeline shift from an imposed loop into something causality could accept. The paradoxes dissolved one by one as free will transformed manipulation into genuine choice. On the displays, the silence stopped advancing. The erasure effect halted at the edge of the affected sectors. "It's working," someone whispered. The spatial anomalies began to fade. Reality stabilized. The impossible loop became a closed curve that the universe could finally accept. And Marcus felt his chest grow cold. His engineered genetics were shutting down. The modifications that had kept his bloodline intact across thousands of years, that had locked his memories, that had healed him from the assassination attempt. All of it failing at once. He collapsed. Velshera caught him before he hit the floor. "No," she said fiercely. "No, we're not losing you. Not after everything." Dr. Yenna was already scanning him, her 4 arms moving frantically. "His cellular structure is breaking down. The genetic modifications are self-destructing." "Then fix it," Velshera shouted. "I can't. This was built into him from the beginning. It's the final part of the loop." Marcus smiled weakly. "It's okay. This is how it was supposed to go." "Unacceptable." Velshera looked around at the gathered representatives. "Every species here exists because of this human. We have the combined medical knowledge of 847 civilizations. We can save one person." The Keshri delegate stepped forward. "Our regeneration technology. Our cellular stabilizers," added the Vrel representative. "Our genetic repair matrices," said the Trell commander. One by one, every species offered their most advanced medical knowledge. Not because Marcus was their founder, but because he was their friend. They worked for 6 hours straight, combining technologies that had never been used together, building solutions that shouldn't exist, fighting causality itself to save one ordinary human who had done an extraordinary thing. Marcus woke up 3 days later in a medical bay. His chest ached, but he was breathing. Alive. Velshera sat beside his bed, exhausted but smiling. "You're fired as a janitor." "What?" "We're creating a new position. Keeper of the Causality Archive. Someone needs to document this timeline for the future humans who will eventually travel back. Make sure they know what actually worked." Marcus laughed, then winced at the pain. "So the loop continues?" "The loop continues. But now it's a gift freely given and gratefully received." He looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, millions of years in the future and thousands of years in the past, humans were beginning their greatest journey. The timeline was stable. The galaxy lived. And Marcus Webb, janitor, founder, and most importantly just a guy who showed up to work every day, finally got to rest. On his bedside table he noticed his employee badge. Someone had updated his title. Under his name it now read, Keeper of Time, Founder of Friends, Cleaner of Paradoxes. He smiled. Some things, it seemed, never really changed.